We're streaming. Coming at you from the 37th parallel on America's haunted highway, it's Pixelated Paranormal, your guide to the unusual and the strange.
Well, what's up, everybody? Welcome back to Pixelated Paranormal. I am Shawn. I'm getting sick with the nasty jam. And with me, as always, is Preston. Preston, buddy, how are you? Mm-mm-mm. Awesome. Hey, my house too smells like chicken. Shayla made some shawarma chicken thighs before I got home tonight, and we had a little shawarma and hummus, and
Oh,
it still smells kind of peppery, kind of like Indian food,
and like
which
like
normally is great, but with my sinuses being jacked up, it's super, super spicy.
and like an idiot, I had my microphone muted. So you know what? The podcast people that download this on iTunes will get to hear that story. Everybody who's live streaming is like, "What the fuck did that guy just say?" So fuck it. Live television.
Oh man, live
Yeah.
television, folks. Preston just said that he made homemade chicken wings for dinner at request of Jeffrey.
Yep. And the
Oh,
studio now
great.
smells
Hey,
like
that's all
fried
right.
chicken.
Hey, that's okay, man. You know what? This episode is going to be a short one anyway, just because I don't know that I can go more than about 20, 30 minutes without having to clear my throat 100 times. So,
Or the computer
yeah,
crashes. I
folks.
mean, we're living on the edge tonight. We're
Yeah,
living
yeah, my
dangerously.
computer also is doing yeah, my computer is doing its very best job to limp by as we record this evening, so I'm not sure what's going on. But anyway, I found a really interesting news story to share on this episode, and then it kind of snowballed into a couple really interesting stories on top of that. So the theme tonight, folks, is Russian UFOs. And why not just get right into it, huh? From Newsweek.com, this story came from just a few days ago at the beginning of January. But anyway, a mysterious object described by one local news outlet as a UFO has been shot down in southern Russia in the region of Rostov. Now, Vasily Gulubev, the governor of Rostov Oblast, wrote to the telegram saying that a small sized object in the shape of a ball had been discovered flying around in the wind at an altitude of around 1.5 miles on January 3rd, with the object spotted above the village of Sultan Sala in the region's Mayanjnoloskovy district, which I know I definitely pronounced 100% correct. Gulubev said the decision was made to liquidate the object. I urged everyone to remain calm and to ensure security. All forces and means involved have been taken account for. The sky is covered with an anti-aircraft defense without specifying exactly what the object was. In reporting his comments, local news outlet Pivyet Rostov carried the headline that said a UFO in the form of a ball was shot down in the sky. Telegram channels that night described how air defense systems in Rostov had been operating, and the channel, which I won't even dare to pronounce, but it means caution news. Oh hell, why wouldn't I try to pronounce it? Ostavanya Nastrafi
Good
Novosti
job, dude. You get an
published
A
the video.
plus for that. Man.
Yeah, A plus for almost. They published a video showing a shining object flying and then exploding in the sky. Look, another one has gone, someone is heard saying in the clip, which was captioned another video of the work of Rostov Regional Air Defenses. A witness told the channel how there's a very strong explosion and that everything in the house shook. We realized that the air defense were in operation. Now, Newsweek has contacted the governor's office for further comment, and Rostov borders the Sea of Azov, which is connected to the Black Sea by the Strait of Kerch, a strategic location for both sides of the war in Ukraine. Since the start of Vladimir Putin's invasion, the oblast near Ukraine has been subject to regular shelling and drone attacks. In October, Rostov was named one of 6 of Russia's regions and 2 annexed regions in Putin's, well, I think we're just getting into the war in Ukraine, which is fucking horrible. But yeah, that's it for the UFO segment of that story. Pretty wild stuff, Presto. What do you think, man? It kind of reminds me of like maybe the Nazi bell.
Yeah. Yeah, that or, somebody like Russian army or maybe the Ukrainian army have or maybe even us, maybe the good old US of A. It's like, you know what, guys? We have a 25-year-old UFO that we designed that is pretty much outdated, but what the fuck? You guys could use it, and we just gave it to them and said, have fun.
Just threw it over.
You know what? Let the comrades have it, and that's what's floating around. Or, the other side of that coin is the Russians have like 25-year-old UFO technology that's pretty shitty, and it's floating around, and they're just trying their best to keep up with the rest of us.
Yeah, I like the idea that we just threw one over the fence for him.
Like, here you go.
Just some old.
Be careful.
Right.
You'll poke your eye out with that thing. Whatever you do, don't hit the red button.
Red Rider, Red Army. I see what you did there. Well, the Pentagon, we've seen a lot of headlines lately of UFOs, not just, civilians accounting for these, but actual, observations made by members of the U.S. Army and other armies, such as, the Russian. What's interesting here is that the Pentagon's brand new all-domain anomaly resolution office, i.e. the AARO, has started coming out making public announcements of all these UFO sightings that the actual government has made. So we're talking about pilots and Navy and other members of the U.S. military. The agency set up the AARO for military pilots and others who may be hesitant to report the presence of UFOs and UAPs. So, I mean, this news line about Russia shooting down a UFO is just going to be a drop in the bucket. I think that we're going to see this year in headlines because, in 2021, God, how many reports did we have? Like over 100 headlines and news stories were out there about UFO sightings, whether they hit, mainline media or just kind of got shoved aside in, MSN's, news bings. I don't know, but I think we're going to see a lot more of it, man, because it's just stacking up. And I think it's at the point now where there's just too many for us to be ignoring them. And, the
Foo
government
Fighters
used
are coming
to
back, baby. The Foo Fighters are coming back.
I mean, at least that's what it looks like to me. And I think the U.S. military alone has realized they just can't keep, or government, sorry, the U.S. government realizes they can't keep a lid on it anymore. There's just going to be too many of them. There's such an influx of people coming forward saying, oh, shit, yeah, I saw one too. I was just too scared to say something about it. And also, I think it also goes for public transparency and public safety. We report these things via the military to show the, citizens and population that we are taking it serious and that there's nothing to be afraid of, folks. Well, the Russian shooting down the UFO story made me do a little digging into other UFO incidents in Russia, and I found 2 pretty interesting stories that we thought we'd share on this episode. Because oddly enough, 2 separate stories kind of lead into each other. So, Preston, why don't you take the reins here, buddy, while I wet my whistle?
Man, I really hope that in the story that you gave me, there's no, I didn't pre-read this, so I don't want to, fucking get a B in pronunciation. Anyways, in late August 1980, early one morning around 5 a.m. at the summer camp near Syoma River in what is now the independent country of Targashkistan,
Tajikistan.
yeah, Tajikistan. Fuck, I don't know what's silent and what's not supposed to be silent. Anyways, Nadi S. would suddenly awaken with the intense feeling that something was attempting to contact her. Another camper would wake also, but would soon fall back asleep. Nadi, though, would hear a voice inside her head asking if she wished to leave the tent. Dude, I wonder if this is like what happened in Tunguska, like the campers, because they could never understand like why the fuck the campers would want to like leave because it was so fucking cold. Like you know, why would you want to go out there and suffer from hypothermia? And there's like it looked like something didn't like break from the tent from the outside, but something.
Yeah,
something
you said
happened
Tunguska, but it was Dyatlov Pass.
Yeah, there you go. You know, tomato. Anyways,
I mean, Tunguska was a giant explosion.
Yeah, you know, I know what I'm talking about, but
similar, I guess.
I'm just thinking that the old wheel crank's got a noggin there, and wonder if that was the same thing where the people in the tent heard voices like, "Don't you want to come outside? Don't you want to get warm? Do you want to see my secret?" And they're like, well, "Fuck, it's kind of shitty in here. Let's fucking go rock and roll outside in the Siberian tundra," you know?
Right.
Anyways, as she began to look around her, she noticed a tall figure. It was behind some bushes, lurking like a pervert, apparently attempting to squat and hide. The old stroke and go. Nadi looked at the mysterious figure a little longer. It was similar to a tall man. More to the point, she was sure the energy she felt inside the tent was coming from this humanoid entity. Then the figure stood and walked out with his pants down in front of the hedge.
Shut up.
Yeah. Nani would begin to walk towards it before a bizarre and strange realization that was an alien dick. That if she walked directly at the figure, she wouldn't be able to see it. She began to walk in a circular direction as she neared it, though. It eventually did disappear, and in its place was a shiny spark which would fade away several seconds later. Although she didn't quite understand the nature of the experience, Nani couldn't escape the feeling that the encounter was of some significance. One point of interest here are the claims of those who can see entities from another dimension, but only from a certain perspective. This was why she chose to approach from a bizarre angle. Also, many people who witness shadow people state that they can only see them at the very limits of their peripheral vision. Still, at the same camp 2 weeks later, Nadi would again awaken to the same energy seemingly calling to her. Once again, she would leave the tent, and once again the humanoid figure with its pants down would be visible to her. And it appeared to be slightly hunched over. I mean, he was at the end of what he was doing. Anyways, this time, though, the serenity of the early morning was suddenly disturbed brutally by noisy activity from the water nearby. You're laughing at my ad-libbing, but I think I'm pretty spot on in my deduction of what this figure was doing. As Nani turned her head, she witnessed several luminous humanoid figures. And that's called bukkake, people.
Circle jerk.
Yeah. In her direction.
Old Russian tent circle jerk.
They were seemingly floating slightly above the ground as they moved. The luminous group would descend near Nadi, who offered a mental greeting to them. For reasons she wasn't sure. A voice would enter her mind asking her where her friend Larissa was. Nadi replied that her friend's room was in another cabin. Then a forgotten memory floated back into her mind. Only the previous evening, Larissa had been rather ill. Nadi was with her when the same luminous humanoids descended on them. One of them moved their glowing arms in a strange but very specific motion. Maybe, like that. I don't know. Again, I'm ad-libbing.
Gross.
Yeah.
Ew.
Almost immediately, Larissa was well again. The sacred alien jizz. It's the gift that keeps on giving.
It sounds like Nadi interrupted a late night booty call.
Yeah. Nani would later describe these luminous entities as having large heads with large slanted type eyes. Their chins appeared particularly pointed, but were most noticeable with a bluish aura that surrounded him. This aura was like a blue flame and appeared fluctuant around them in a similar fire-like motion. Small protrusions were visible on their backs, which one of them explained via Nadi's, mind telepathy, that these were natural power sources. Suddenly, Nadi's memories became lazy. Hazy. The next thing she knew, she awoke in her tent, and the luminous humanoids were gone. The last detail, combined with their glowing appearance and even Nadi's own admission, was that the power sources very much resembled small wings. It is perhaps an obvious similarity to how angels are often depicted. Nadi herself would state that this was the easiest way to describe their physical appearance. What might these entities have been? They interacted with witnesses via telepathy, much the same as any extraterrestrial close encounters. However, there were no sightings of any nuts and bolts craft. These entities appeared and then vanished. However, again, much like alien abduction cases, she would fail to remember their leaving. Her memory would become cloudy, as if there was an intentional block against any recall. Might these entities, who would appear to be more energy-based life forms, also be indigenous to Earth? Or might they indeed hail from elsewhere in the cosmos and travel here through the use of portals? Regardless of their origin and their sexual intention, given the description of writings of angels throughout history, we are to assume their presence has been one that stretches back at least far back as humanity itself, if not before.
Damn.
Yeah.
Late night Russian booty call.
I mean, I'm thinking like, if we're making this comparison to like angels and BS, the Nephilim, the Watchers, they're like watching people like little peeping toms on Earth, and they're like, fuck human women, god damn boy. And I don't know about you, but let's make a pact, let's make some sin, go down there and make some half angel, half human babies, if you know what I'm saying. And then bada bing, bada boom, shit happened. So
yeah. I kind of like that idea. Also, I think the way that angels were originally depicted in the Bible were terrifying, because didn't they say they had 3 different faces?
Yeah, and their faces
Also,
were like
drinking
elongated.
A Kim and Jack?
If you actually, yes, I am. If you look at early Renaissance to prior depiction of angels, they're very much they have elongated nose, elongated facial features. They don't look angelic like what we think of modern day, Hallmark greeting card pictures of angels are. They were very scary, and even some of the translations of the words for the angels just meant bringers of knowledge. So I mean, wouldn't extraterrestrials?
They weren't cute little cherubs.
Yeah, wouldn't they bring knowledge to us as primordial, idiotic, redneck, backwards primates?
Yes, I think you are correct.
Yeah.
Well, what's interesting about your story here is it shares a bit of a connection with another one I found that happened in a little town called Orsk that happened only a few weeks later after yours. Your story took place in what, late August?
Yes.
Well, it was a little after it was a little after 10 p.m. one evening in early September 1980 when a group of 4 friends sat on the banks of the river Kumak near the town of Orsk while they were night fishing. They were busy arranging their fishing lines, preparing to cast them out into the water, when they said they saw a bright star-like object which appeared overhead. As it moved, it appeared to cast out a circular ring of light, which then split into several different rings, all that went through the air, similarly to how air ripples across the surface of water. The light started growing in size and was very obviously descending. I say, yeah, obvious? Obvious? Yeah, that's a tough word all of a sudden. The light was growing in size, and it was obviously descending. The witnesses would estimate by the time it was just about above the ground, The diameter was between 30 to 50 feet across. The closer it got to the ground, the circles of light began to morph into cone-shaped beams. The four young men watched in awe, and after several moments, the craft ascended again. The cone of light, however, would remain on the ground only for a few short seconds, after which it soon faded away. As bizarre as the incident undoubtedly was, the four men would leave their lines and nets in the water and return to their camp base nearby. They would eat dinner and discuss what they might have seen. Perhaps they theorized it might have been some kind of natural phenomenon, but even a rocket or a missile test from nearby Kazakhstan. But by 1 a.m., two of the men would turn in for the evening. The other two, however, would return to the riverbank to check their lines and nets to see if they happened to have captured anything. It was a journey like neither had ever experienced. For the pair who ventured down to the riverbanks, it's unclear exactly which members of the group it was, the trip would take a sudden dramatic turn. Hold on. Sorry, that shawarma pepper is still in the air. Without warning, the first witness would find his surroundings changing within an instant. He was suddenly inside a strange room. A strange voice suddenly appeared in his head, instructing him to sit down. So he did so, positioning himself on a rectangular stool in front of him. He would take a look around and note that the entire room appeared as though it was made from gray plastic. There was a closed doorway in front, along with an array of piping entering the room through the wall. On the floor, there was a small hatch. As he was looking at the hatch, it suddenly opened. Beneath was another room, and he could see his friend from the riverbank. Then, as if he were under some kind of remote control, the witness stood and began to descend into the room beneath the hatch. He jumped to the floor, landing next to his friend below. God, I lose my place. As he looked up, it appeared the hatch was now closing. A bright light was moving away from them. Jesus. Sorry, guys. A bright light was moving away from them. They were both trapped in a small basement-like room. So he began to shout at the captors not to go. The next thing both of them knew, their surroundings had changed yet again. Suddenly above them, the two other members of their group were standing there calling their names. They were both standing in a crater about 5 feet deep. Neither of them could recall arriving there, but what's more, despite the ground being soft due to recent rain, there were no footprints anywhere around the bizarre hole in the middle of nowhere. Furthermore, the time was now after 7 a.m. One of the men who'd gone to sleep for the evening had done so in the group's car. He recalled waking up around 6:30 a.m. to a bright flash of light and a loud hissing sound. Shortly after, he and the remaining member of the group would go out searching for their missing friends. The sighting was also corroborated, at least in part, by a hunter who had also ventured out into the surrounding woodland earlier that morning. He could recall seeing a star-like light emitting a beam of light towards the ground. It would certainly appear to be the case of alien abduction, and one that hypnotic regression would very likely unlock the missing hours and details of such an encounter. Whether any sessions have taken place is unknown. The incident comes blah, 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 blah. So I don't know. Yet again, another bizarre alien abduction.
Yeah. You know what the
Russia.
the luminous blue chin bukkake guys reminded me of, too?
What?
And I think we might have covered it on an early episode, but remember the lake in Russia that's got the glowing blue men and glowing silver men that come out of it, and they're supposed to be like a hidden underground civilization. Yeah.
Oh man, I forgot what that's called, but that's one that Baba Drock had sent us to look into and do an episode over. back when we had asked about like I forget what the cue was, but on Instagram we had asked like what are some of your favorite alien encounters, and yeah, he mentioned that weird story of the subterranean aliens. Were they like giants? I don't quite remember.
Yeah, they were like
Gosh,
I don't know, 7 feet, 8 feet tall. They had a
uh huh.
glow, an ominous glow about them, and you know,
Man, I really wish I could remember what those were. Because yeah, you're exactly right. Man, and luckily, like through the powers of editing, I can cut all this out. But yeah, I'm gonna peruse through here real quick and see if I can figure out what it was. Yes, okay. Um, on episode two, let's see here. Episode 121, the Festival of Giant Hot Toddies. Coincidentally enough, I was sick on that episode too. I think I was drinking hot toddies that episode. We talked about the Ninjin.
yeah,
I think the Ninjin were the big things under the water. I believe I could be wrong, but I'm pretty sure that's exactly what it was. That's fucking awesome, man. I totally forgot all about that. I can't believe that, man. Wow. Hold on here. There's an underwater. No, was it in Siberia?
yeah, I think so. Somewhere in Russia.
Um, So let's see here. I Googled it real quick. Perhaps one of the strangest UFO encounters from the inside of old Soviet Union occurred under an icy water of Lake Baikal in Siberia.
There we
The area
go.
is claimed to be the UFO hotspot of researchers, with accounts of gigantic objects hovering out of the water, and even claims of strange figures in shiny suits being sighted in the area. In 1982, according to leaked documents from former officer in the Soviet Navy Vladimir Azhirja, military divers witnessed one of the crafts up close. Furthermore, after monitoring it for several days, a deadly battle ensued between a team of divers and apparent occupants of the vehicle. Several humanoids dressed in shiny clothing, wearing what appeared to be oxygen masks, were witnessed by a seven-strong team of divers. They appeared to engage in a capture one of the strange beings, and then it resulted them in being defeated themselves with some kind of sonar wave weapon. Wow, I totally forgot about that, man.
Yeah,
Interesting. So now I got to ask myself, what do we talk about on episode 121? The ninjas, some kind of giant swimming giants, I guess.
yeah.
Well, I got one more little bonus story here because we're just now at about a half hour point. Let me find it here. I wasn't going to talk about it in this episode, but anyway, to cap off the episode here while I can still talk without choking. One of the most intriguing stories to come out of Russia happened after the fall of the Berlin Wall near the summer of 1996 in the small village of Kyolmoroy. God, one day, near
Hmm.
the town of Kismet. An old lady came upon what appeared to be an abandoned baby while walking alone in the woods. She used her shawl to wrap up the infant and then took it back to her apartment, deciding as she did to name the child Ashlinka. However, the old lady's daughter-in-law, Tamara, saw the baby for herself the following day during her routine visit, and she was horrified. She would later describe the thing as something not from this planet. It should be noted that Tamara, despite being interviewed about the incident many times, has never deviated from her original version of the events. She claimed that her mother-in-law would feed the baby, although it consumed the food. Its strange mouth didn't seem to move as it did so. The pupils of the eyes also were narrowing and widening like a cat's do. Despite Tamara's best efforts, the old lady's ravings about having a baby soon spread around the village, and in light of her previous mental health issues, she was incarcerated in a mental institution soon after. At the time of her detention, she pleaded with medical staff that she had a baby in her apartment. However, authorities would go on to ignore her pleas. Alishka would then remain alone in the apartment. Although there are several versions of the events that followed in the old lady's detainment, Jesus, sorry. What's clear here is that Tamara returned to the apartment and discovered the now dead Alinshka Jesus. Huh. Maybe I shouldn't have had decided to do a third story. She'd tell her friend Vladimir Neradonov of the now deceased baby. Some sources claim it would be another way around, with Neradov finding Alishka. Oh, never mind. God bless America, folks. Unsure what to do, the pair sought the help of local policeman Vladimir Bendelin, who took the baby from the pair and immediately had tests carried out. Bendelin suspected the baby was a mummified remain of a small child. Fuck me, man. Yeah, I don't think I can finish this story without dying. Oh, we better call it, pal.
Yep.
Yeah, sorry, folks. This makes for great television.
Yeah. That's
Great YouTube.
Sean's got a case of the old alien bukkake stuck down in there.
Man, I must have, yeah. Jesus, this story is a lot longer than I thought it was going to be. Yeah, I'll cover this one next time, guys. That I will do for sure, because there's actually some pretty interesting photos. So, yeah, let's do that. I hate to do it, buddy, but let's get out of here, because I don't think I can survive. All right, folks. Sorry for cutting it short. If you're on the old Instagram, please check us out at PXL Paranormal. If you're on Facebook, give us a follow at the Pixelated Paranormal Podcast. Preston, what do you got for us about the old YouTube? Sorry.
So we're up to 230 subscribers with 152 videos. If you're watching this and you enjoy the content that you listen to and see, like and
not
subscribe.
Like this
and smash that button, and so that you can continue on getting all the wonderful content that we produce here at Pixelated Paranormal. And then, as always, if you need a beard, if you want a beard, if you're out in the Russian tundra forest in the middle of winter in a tent, and you have an alien that's jerking the gherkin in the bushes and getting one off on you, and you want to up that game and really give Mr. Alien a show, or maybe the Alien Circle Jerk a show, you need to do yourself a favor and go over to BigDobsBeardBomb.com. Once again, that is BigDobsBeardBomb.com. And use promo code PXLPARA for 20% off your order. You can get yourself scents like bay rum, fresh citrus, and the scent of the week that I'm rocking is mint. I got some old mint in the beard, and I really love it. And get it at Dobbs.
Hell yeah. I heard you reference the Netflix documentary, The Hatchet-Wielding Hitchhiker. What'd you think?
Yeah. I enjoyed it for what it was. I like all those crime documentaries. I didn't think it was going to go in that direction. I don't even remember that from all those years ago. Like, I was totally oblivious to that was a thing, and
Yeah, I don't either. Yep, I don't remember any of it either, and then it's a pretty interesting documentary, though, for sure. Yeah. The Hatchet-Wielding Hitchhiker. Check it out. All right, well, if you're in the Wichita area, folks, please stop by and see our dear friend Leslie and the rest of the gang at CD Trade Post, Pawnee and Seneca. And I tell you what, we'll make it up to you next time. Since I almost died on this episode, we'll give you a long, strong one next go-around.
Yeah, I might have Haunted America Part 2 Dudley Town ready for us by then. So.
Oh, nice. All right, cool, man. Yeah, if you do, that'd be terrific.
Yeah.
And I'm going to come back around. If you do Haunted America next time, then I'll come back around and touch on that Russian story, because it's an interesting story. But yeah, I think my voice is about to give out. So
we should probably do the underwater stuff again, too, and verify that we covered the right underwater stuff in Russia, and maybe deep dive that with that and give them a double whammy for that episode.
Yeah, we could do that. We could do that next time, a little housekeeping, and then do your Dudley after that if you want.
Yeah.
Cool. All right, dude. Well, before I have another coughing fit, let's get out of here. Cheers to the weird shit in the world and those of us who love to talk about it, folks.
And stay spooky and stay on the paranormal highway.
Man,
The cast at Pixelated Paranormal would like to thank you for listening to this week's episode.
I knew if I threw in a bonus story, it was
Pixelated
going to happen.
Paranormal is here to tell you tales of the fantastical, the strange, the unknown. Tales that will move you a little further down.
So
the
this story
paranormal
basically
highway.
is Russia's
If you'd like to share your
Pedro
own
Street
listener
game.
story, we would love to hear it. Email us
I'm an
at
idiot,
pixelatedparanormal@gmail.com. Again, that's pixelatedparanormal@gmail.com. We'd really love to hear from you. Again, thanks for listening to this week's episode of Pixelated Paranormal, your guide to the unusual and the strange.